Hi everybody, Richard Tromans here again, Artificial Lawyer TV. Today we are with Noah Waisberg, who needs no introduction. You know,
Hey, good to be here.
and if you've read the headline above this video, you've just seen that they have received a significant amount of money from Insight Partners, who were the previous investor in Kira Systems. As you know, also, Zuva has spun out of Kira to create a new company. And to tell us a bit more about the funding and the new direction, let's get into this. So Noah, first of all, let's deal with the money. So 20 million, is that correct?
Canadian, so that's not like GBP or anything like that, but still a solid amount of money to get going.
Fantastic. And is this fresh money? Is this sort of completely fresh snow, as it were, from Insight Partners, or is this part of this that was from the original investment a while ago in Kira?
Money is sort of a fungible thing, if you think of it, right? Like at the end of the Latera transaction in which we sold Kira Systems to Latera, Insight and others had the opportunity to kind of take money back or put it in and roll it forward. And Insight chose to roll it forward. So that's the best way to think of it.
Got you. So it's fair to say that some of the money that's been allocated now, invested in Zuva, was previously allocated to a Kira investment.
Money's money, right? Like you could spend, like if I give you $10, you could go and spend it on getting a pint. You could spend it on donating it to charity. You could spend it on, taking an Uber someplace. So I think the money there is money that, like, despite what some in the press might say, there was actual money that came out of the Kira Latera transaction. And so I think Insight got a bunch of that money, and this is some of that money, you could think of it, but there's another sense in which this could have been money they just put in their pockets. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, it's well. Let's move on. The press release states that they led the investment round, so presume that sort of de facto suggests that there are other investors.
Yeah, and like in fact, like my co-founder Alex and I, so Insight, Alex and I owned about 85% of Kira prior to the Latera deal, and the three of us own about 85% of Zuva now. So, except for Alex and Noah, do not have such a glamorous, exalted reputation as investors. So we didn't talk about them as much in the press release.
Oh, okay. So there's you guys and there's Insight, but there's not like a bunch of other VC funds off in California.
Not that you know. Busy enough lately that I'm not going out and spending time raising money. Basically, like when we raised money for Kira, I never created a pitch deck or anything like that, and that remains the case today.
Gotcha.
We didn't go out and like do like a big fundraising process or anything like that, but we knew Insight well. They're an amazing fund, like just such high quality people, really added a lot of value to us, I felt, over our time at Kira. And they were willing to kind of keep rolling with us. And I was in the fortunate position, along with Alex, where I had some capital that I was able to put in, and sort of between the three of us, we kind of got, I think, and some others also contributed, but I think, again, with the three of us holding about 85% of Zuva, mostly the three of us, that we felt like that was enough to kind of get Zuva on its feet.
Yeah, well, 20 million should get you going. Absolutely. It's more than most small legal tech startups have in a lifetime. So
more than Kira had for about 8 years.
That's true indeed. So just clarify, so Insight is the only external investor and the other investors are part of Zuva?
No, there are previous Kira shareholders who are shareholders in Zuva. And gotcha. Then HG Latera has like an under 2% interest.
Ah, right. Okay, okay. Interesting. So there's quite a bit of cross holdings going on as well as you obviously not severing your relationship with Latera and Kira, because of course,
No,
as
not at
you
all. Like
mentioned,
our
you're still
relationship
very
is,
much helping
yeah,
out.
our relationship with them is close. We talk to them. The 2 calls that I did prior to this involve people who are still there. So it's not like some kind of like we're very close with them.
Okay, absolutely. Well, thank you for answering the questions about the finance side.
Yeah,
Let's
of
move on
course.
to the company, and then we'll get into the product. So, at the moment, as it stands today, this week in September, how many people does Zuva have?
Zuva, I think today is 34 or 35 people.
Okay, so that's pretty good, substantial group. And I imagine that most of those have come over from Kira, or have you attracted other people?
So today is our first, the start date of our first new Zuva hire, but everybody else came over from Kira. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And where are you roughly trying to get to in the next, year or so in terms of size and growth? I mean, you're based in Canada again, you're still based in Toronto,
Yeah,
which
though we
makes
have a couple
sense.
people in the UK as well.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
But where are you trying to get to? Very, very roughly. I know it's just the beginning, but very roughly, where are you trying to sort of head to?
It's so hard to be certain because it really depends on kind of commercial momentum. And so that could kind of shift it a bit one way or the other. Um, Probably about 45 or so, by not over the next like 3 months, but over the
Mhm.
next while. So the quirk of the people that came over from Zuva, of the say 34 people that came over, nearly all of them are technical. And so we have like a couple marketing people, a salesperson, an IT person, me, my EA, and then it's developers, designers, product managers, legal knowledge engineering people, and then a machine learning research team that have come over, and systems people to go with them and keep our systems sort of DevOps, tech ops people who've come over. And so we need to add in some roles there, but also just balance the company out. Like the person who started today is a director level HR hire, because you need that. And we need some help on the finance side and some help on the sales and marketing side. So more hires to come, but just to round out the company, but also some additional tech hires as well.
Okay, makes sense, makes sense. So should people be sending you their CVs, or
They
will you
can.
call them?
Tend at Kira, we were always pretty fastidious about hiring based on our needs, right? So one thing, and I don't know if it was the right policy or not, but we never really hired people who were just like great people, but we didn't have a role for them. Like we always hired great people who we needed to fill a certain specific role. And so with this, we're putting up a lot of role openings, and especially if people fit those, we'd love to talk to them. But if not, you can always reach out to us. Like we love talking to good people, but we tend to hire people for specific roles. And I think we found a lot of success through that at Kira, and I think we'll probably do the same with Zuva.
Okay, fantastic. Right, let's get into the product.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there. It's aimed, as said before, at the corporate market, not just the in-house, but again across the whole corporate piece, really, in many ways. Probably rather than me paraphrasing what I've read on your website, why don't you just give us a quick overview, if that's okay?
Yeah, for sure. So Zuva's first product, there's another one that's under development that should launch later. Hard to say exactly when. But the first product that's coming out and launched earlier in September in production is called Document AI, Doc AI. And so what Doc AI is just an ability to pull data out of contracts or other documents and embed that capability into other systems, right? So the idea is that if you felt like finding data from contracts because you were building like a contract negotiation system or a contract management system, or you felt like building contract data extraction into like a Salesforce based application like Gainsight, or into a finance based application or an HR based application, you could build it yourself, right? Which is certainly possible. You could use certain like publicly available tools, like you could use like Google has a document AI product, Microsoft, Amazon have products like this. There's Lex Predict, like those are all possible. Or you could use Doc AI. The reason you might use Doc AI is our belief is it's best in class for this. Like it just will get you better results. So it comes with more than 1,200 trained smart fields out of the box. And you can also train it. And our belief was when we were at Kira that we had the best technology on the market for doing this. And it allows you to just embed that best in class technology into your app for a reasonable price.
Got you. And just to clarify for people who aren't used to the term smart fields, sort of more generically, we're talking about the sort of, you might say, an NLP recipe, perhaps, or how
like a data point out of a contract or another document. Like, what type of agreement is this, right? Like, just is this like a management agreement, a lease, an employment contract? So information like that. What language is this document in? And then again, more than 1,200 different data points in these contracts, like what, or other documents, like what does a document say about confidentiality requirements or pricing or who the parties to it are. And again, there's like a large menu of things available. And then our customers are also able to teach it themselves to find new information. So that technology back at Kira was used to train more than 20,000 additional fields. And so our customers are able to do that, but they don't have to share that, what they've taught with others.
And it is incredibly broad. I mean, I was having a look. I mean, you've got what you would expect around sort of contracts, which people on the legal team would see, to invoices, tax documents, banking documents, procurement documents. I mean, and not necessarily contracts, but just anything that has unstructured data on it. I mean, you pretty much covered everything I could think of. You even covered press releases, I know.
There's a lot more stuff that in fact we plan on building out. But yeah, we think it's pretty good. Like what we always heard with Kira was that we had built the premier data extraction technology. And for people who like the Kira sort of workbench user experience, like they should just use Kira, right? Like that's a great piece of technology if you need a review platform. But there's a lot of other situations where people could use the underlying technology. They just need a different user interface. And so what we've been seeing with Zuva customers is that they're embedding that kind of underlying technology into their own user interface. And the technology is built, it's just an API, it's available in the cloud hosted by us, or our customers can host it themselves, sort of on-prem or in their own cloud. And we think that's really powerful. Just enables, like when Alex and I had the idea to build Kira in the first place, it then took years and years of research for us to get research and sort of development and pain to get our technology to get this underlying technology to work in our use case. And what we've done with Zuva is just made it so that anyone can take this technology and embed it into another application without having to build it themselves, and can have sort of the very best in class technology with minimal extra effort.
So let's just look at a sort of more sort of granular use case. I mean, for example, it mentions, well, let's take a slightly left field one. It mentions press releases. How would Zuva apply there? Would that be where, I don't know, for example, like a company has a huge doc stack and it wants to break the doc stack into its various constituent parts, or is there a specific use case related to that?
Yeah, so with press releases, I think what Zuva does is just classifies the document type. So exactly what you described, right? Someone's got a massive document management system and they feel like bringing some order to it. Zuva comes pre-trained with an ability to give them some order, right? So what Zuva could do just out of the box is tell them that a document is one of sort of the set menu of types. And then for some of the document types, it's not going to do this for press releases, but for other documents, it could give you additional intelligence about it, right? Like it's it happens to be a contract as opposed to a press release, and it's a Delaware governed contract, and Zuva could tell you that as well. So,
Gotcha.
so it
So,
just
so
depends
what,
what
what
you're.
about sort of the more sort of the mix of structured and unstructured? Because I saw, invoices and banking documents and finance letters and so forth. It would do the same thing. So it starts off on the first tier of sort of classification. I mean, it also tells you what language it's in, which I guess if you've got a very large document set, that's useful. And then it starts to get into some of the preset extractions. So, this type of invoice will have these key things.
Yeah, though depending on the invoice, like it may or may not, like I don't know if today it's the very best tool for extracting everything out of invoices. Like there may be some other tools. And what we see application developers doing a lot of the time is mixing and matching different APIs for different purposes, right? So there might be like a Google API that's great on invoices. But if you need to pull stuff out of contracts, if that's one of the problems you're also trying to solve, then Zuva might be a great place to use in that part of your stack. And I think one of the important things to note is just that you don't have to use the entire menu of things that Zuva has available. Like there are a whole bunch of different things that you might do with Zuva, but you can pick and choose what of it you'd like to use and only pay for what you use.
Got you. Actually, that's a good question. How do people pay for this? So, if there's a GC watching this, or maybe someone's further back into the company in the procurement or wherever, and says, "Okay, that sounds interesting, but how much is this going to cost me? How do I pay for this?"
So realistically, if you're an end user, I think a different way to answer that is maybe talk about who are likely Zuva customers.
Mhm.
Like, is it a GC? Is it someone in the back office, or is it a different set? What we've found so far is that Zuva has sort of two sets of customers slash places who seem to be pretty interested in it. And those are the ones that we've been selling to. So maybe there's a bit of bias that way because maybe we haven't been trying the third group. But the two groups tend to be ISVs, so independent software vendors, right? So an independent software vendor is like another company who builds technology, okay? And so if you were a contract management system vendor, for example, it might be useful to have functionality like ours inside your application. So again, that's where you come down to the choices, right? You can build it yourself, and there are places who've built it themselves. You can use technology provided by another vendor, or you can incorporate Zuva, right? Or you can do nothing too, is the other choice, right? So those other vendors might choose ours, and we think there's really good reasons to choose ours as opposed to building yourself, which is sort of time-consuming, expensive, and exceedingly unlikely to yield the results that we were able to get to after sort of more than 10 years of working on this with quite a lot of investment at Kira. So that's building it yourself. And if you're using one of the other products, our sense is that they don't stack up super well against Zuva in terms of just performance, like accuracy and the like, on the things that Zuva is best at. So,
So you've got the kind of Zuva inside, kind of
yeah,
Intel inside type thing, but
exactly.
and then it's up to the vendor to sort out the pricing and so forth. But if you were
Well, I don't know.
taking,
They pay us a pricing, and then they charge their own clients whatever they charge, right?
but if you were taking raw, as it were, if you were taking like, this is pure Zuva, for a company comes along, GC,
Yeah. So
how do they consume you?
so even for someone, if you're like one of our current customers, there's sort of two choices. You can kind of pay as you go,
Mhm.
right? Where you just sign up, and I think later it'll probably take until about January or so, but you'll literally be able to like sign up with the credit card. Right now, you'd have to get in touch and sort of sign up to a pay as you go. But in the future, you can just kind of pay as you go. Literally, like you consume, you run 1,000 contracts through for document classification. That's going to be this many Zuva units, which equals this many dollars, and it can go on your credit card. Or what the places have been doing so far is they've been pre-committing at a level. And so they say, we think we're going to use 1 million Zuva units this year, which equates to however many of different types of operations. And they pay us money for that. And then they get able to do that.
Gotcha. Okay, no, fair enough, fair enough. And
Um,
actually, on the point about partnerships, because you were talking about working with tech companies and them effectively integrating you into their end products. You're also working with other parties. There was one in particular on the website, which I can't remember the name of right now. But it's kind of like a consultancy advisory group.
Yeah, so in general, like I was saying, customers tend to break into three categories, right? So and we're only really selling to the first two right now, though we'd be happy to sell to the third. We just haven't put sales effort into it. So the first is other software companies who are trying to incorporate this tech into theirs. Second are what you might call a consultancy or a systems integrator, I think is the more technical term, right? So firms who build technology for others, including for companies, right? So a company might have a situation where they hire consultants to build them a product, right? Like to help build a bank trading system or something like that. And in their bank trading system, they might desire to have some contract intelligence in there. And so the consultancy could kind of build it themselves, or they can incorporate ours. Same sort of thing where if they build it themselves, it'll take a long time, won't probably be as good. So we've got serious places that are in discussions to just use Zuva in those situations instead. So that's situation sort of client set number two, right? So independent software vendors, system integrators, which again are like consultants. And then the third category would be companies who, or others who feel like directly building products themselves, right? So if someone, you'd have to be a big enough company, but was interested in incorporating this into their own systems as opposed to just buying something off the rack from another vendor or getting a consultant to do it, they could certainly become a Zuva customer directly. And we'd be very happy to sell to them. We just haven't gone outbound targeting those people yet.
Gotcha. So yeah, so if you're a very small company and you think, hey, let's just go onto the website and get us some Zuva, it's probably not really the target audience right now.
Yeah, like it just, you're probably better if you're a small company and you're a software vendor. That could totally make sense if you were trying to build it into your application, but for your own internal purposes, you're probably better off just buying a piece of technology that has Zuva embedded in it anyways.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Just a couple of quick last questions. In the press release, it also mentions that the technology is patented, and I know that Kira has several patents, and no doubt that's one of them. How does that work? So when Zuva was created a few months ago, did ownership of the patents move with you to Zuva?
No, we have shared ownership over them with Kira.
So some of the revenue from Zuva will feed back to Litera.
No, like no, not at all. No, we're independent companies. Again, so the thing with intellectual property is it's not like you think about my phone, okay? Like only I only I can own my phone, right? Like you and I, Richard, cannot own the same phone, right?
Unless you have NFTs.
Yeah, but it would be hard, like, you presumably get lots of calls and emails. I get lots of calls and emails. It would be very hard for us to physically share the same phone, right? On the other hand, intellectual property is different, right? Like there are ways so that you each can own a sort of undivided interest in a piece of property. And there is certain like management things around patents that exist in our agreements, but essentially we and Latera each own the patents. And then, I think it's not unlikely that we'll each continue to sort of expand our patent portfolio, right? Like Zuva may go out and create or plan to go out and create new technology that will likely patent, and that will be ours, not shared. But all the previous stuff is shared.
Fantastic. And just last thing, really. I mean, in terms of your message to the market, what are you? I mean, Kira obviously was a great success. Obviously it was just from having achieved what you've achieved. But for Zuva, what is your goal? What do you hope to achieve this time?
I think that contracts are developing into a serious ecosystem. Like if you ever look at one of the Luniscapes for sales tech or MarTech, right, where there's like thousands of vendors on there. I think contracts are developing into the same type of landscape. And I think we're going to see them both in kind of like the way they're being done right now, which is more in like dedicated contracts technology, but also in a different way, which is embedded into sort of business information systems like HR systems or ERP systems or CRM systems, for example. I think we'll see contracts embedded much more into those systems in the future. And I don't think you can really do that if you don't have the granular bits of information from contracts. And we think with Zuva, we can provide people those granular bits in the places where they'd like to have them, right? And just really give that best in class technology experience where we don't think anyone was building anything close to what we were at Kira in terms of pulling data out of contracts with good accuracy. We don't think we were close there. And what's exciting to me about Zuva is just enabling others to sort of take that best in class accuracy and put it into whatever system they're working on.
Gotcha. So to sum up, would it be fair to say this is not a legal tech company per se? It's a contract tech company that has a sort of enterprise, multi-departmental remit.
Yeah, that's it. This is very much not like legal. Certainly, we're in legal tech, but we're in a whole lot more, right? Like this is just enterprise tech, and we might just as easily be talking to a bunch of people who do like lease management or property management conferences, or people who are building finance tools. Seem like just as likely customers for Zuva as legal tech ones. And even the contracts area is not, certainly it's our strength right now, but we've been putting quite a lot of machine learning research into figuring out other more structured document types. And we're hopeful that some of that stuff will play out in ways that'll open up new possibilities of just document intelligence and not just contract intelligence.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, look forward to hearing about that, and congratulations again on the new funding and the new launch, and hope to speak to you very soon. Thank you.